emergency management coordinator, and so that's where I jumped in. A little bit about me. I'm sure you guys are over that story. So we'll jump on into El Nino. Come on in. So I've been going around this whole winter season talking about El Nino. I'm sure you guys have seen the news is making a huge deal about El Nino. Is it coming was the question. Who knows? I would get paid a lot more money if I did know if El Nino was coming. But I can tell you that the statistics up until this point are still on track with the 82, 83, and 97, 98 El Nino events that caused a lot of damage in Southern California. So does everyone know what really El Nino is?
I will tell us.
I learned a little bit about it because we've had some. Did anyone attend the community workshop that we had in November at the Suzy Q Center? We had a meteorologist come down and talk about specifically what El Nino was. And it's basically the warming trend of the water. And you can see as we progress through the winter, we had all those unusual events, such as all those red crabs that washed up on the beach. A lot of the sea life that has been, had been dying, a lot of the seals that have been needing rescuing, et cetera, et cetera. So basically what it does is it pulls the jet stream that typically goes across Oregon and Washington and brings that down to Southern California. So we inherit what their winters look like in Southern California. So if you look at the historical data, right now, from October 1st till January, we're on track with exactly what had happened in those big El Nino years. We're just shy of 6 inches of rain from October 1st to currently. Where it gets the wettest season is going to be February and March, where you can see the numbers such as 7 inches of rain in a month, 5 inches of rain. And for us in the drought, that's a great news. However, on the drought side, that El Nino event is not going to be a cure for what we've already had with our drought. So we still want to keep that water conservation up even during the rainy seasons because we need a lot of rain to pull us out of the drought. With that being said, Laguna has problems when it rains a lot, but where we really have problems is when it rains a lot in a short amount of time. So I always get the question, what has the city learned from the most recent event, 2010, which is when we had the floods that washed out a lot of downtown and caused a lot of businesses. The city has done a lot of progress since then, has learned a lot of lessons from that. We've implemented a weather monitoring system that's in our emergency operations center, and a few key staff members have access to that on their desktops as well as at home. We have alerting procedures in there. What we did is we put rain gauges in different parts of the hills in the canyon. We also put soil moisture samples that are also at different points in the canyon, and we have cameras in the waterways there to ensure that everything's flowing correctly and there's nothing blocking it. So with all that information, we're able to understand how saturated the water is, how much rain we've received, as well as what's predicted to occur, so we can make better decisions as far as alerting residents if they need to either evacuate or possibly look at evacuating or a mandatory evacuation. So we're not in that same situation where there's rescues that need to take place in certain parts of the area. Staff has also been spending a lot of time by going out into talking to those stakeholders out in the canyon, Annalise School, the Marine Mammal Center, the alternate sleeping location, the colleges. We've gone and talked to a bunch of them, looked at their emergency operations plan. They're on a partner list that I have, so when we're expecting some rain or even a red flag, we use it for both, that we can communicate with them to let them know to bring out their plans, look at what they're going to do, so that, again, we're not in that same situation in 2010. We also implemented the floodgate plan that's in downtown. So if anyone goes downtown, you can see that they now are required to have floodgates, all the businesses. We're now at 100% compliance for those places. So in our reverse 911 system, which is called Alert OC, that we can just notice those downtown businesses and tell them that they need to put their floodgates on before they expect the rain, so that it prevents any loss of their inventory or product, as well as damage to their buildings.
You have night numbers for all those businesses?
That we tell them when we went out there and did a huge public front campaign to them that they need to sign up their business line, their cell phones, just like you guys do for Alert OC, that we do our best and that they need to utilize that system if they want to protect, so I think we did our due diligence with that. Absolutely. Any questions so far on any of that? We're still rolling along.
The canyon's looking good. How about us?
Yes, exactly. So there were some other key points that we looked at from the 2010 flooding. There were some issues, if I remember correctly, on St. Anne's by Anita Carmen Park. If you guys remember, there were some issues with that. So the city has done some rebuilding of the waterways to expand to allow a little bit more capacity through there. So they believe that they've solved that problem. There was no known areas that were hot spots in Woods Cove on this area. Obviously, you guys probably have your stories that might be a little bit different. But the city also went out and checked all the storm drains. They've gone down and glued all the manholes in the city. They've checked all the terrace drains. They've asked residents to clean up their property. We sent out this disaster preparedness guide. I think everyone here should have gotten it. It outlines all the disasters that we have to try to educate the residents. We've held workshops. But specifically to Woods Canyon, there wasn't anything that was a highlight that we had to do. But I'm obviously here to collect information too if there are, and if there's any issues that you guys have during the rains that needs attention, such as a storm drain that's blocked, etc., that we're there. We want that information so we can go out there and try to fix it.
So when we talk about sandbags,
That's another topic that has kept me employed for a while. Sandbags has been a huge topic here, which is a good thing. So the city this year has never done this before, but we purchased a whole bunch of pre-filled sandbags that residents were allowed to go get. We had them at 2 locations, Aliso Beach on the inland side, as well as the City Courtyard or Act 5 parking lot in the canyon, 1900 Laguna Canyon. Residents were able to go there and pick up 10 sandbags pre-filled to protect their residents. We're not there to supply every resident with sandbags. We're there to help prevent during emergency situations, or in the event that you need some more during the rainy, that you can go get them immediately. It wasn't supposed to take care of your entire property, if that makes sense. We purchased a lot of sandbags. The city spent close to, you can come in ladies, come on in. You just might have to listen to me talk. Upwards of $40,000 in sandbags alone on that first rain. They went like hotcakes. They were gone. I put it on next door. People were thinking I put up a joke because they went there and they were gone. It is what it is. We tried to supply as much as possible. We also, at all 4 of our fire stations, have free empty sandbags. You can go get the bag and then go to your local building supply store out in the canyon or Home Depot or wherever you go, and you can just pay for the sand, fill them yourself, and then use those as well.
Not on the beach, right?
Not on the beach, not at city parks.
and where do you recommend people put their sandbags?
That's true too.
Well, obviously, everybody's property, they understand it. If you've lived there for a while, you know where the water goes during a lot of rain. If you're new to the area, we recommend you talk to your neighbors to figure out where the flow of water goes or where the hot spots in your street might be. So you want to definitely put the sandbags in the low-lying areas to cover the, if you have a door that's in a low-lying area that it floods and then the water can go in. I know myself, I took the time to clean out all my yard drains in my property, all the rain gutters, as well as I have some sandbags in case I need, because I'm new to the house, I've only been there 8 months, I'm not exactly sure where all the water lies on my property specifically, so I do have some in case I need to block some of the doors.
Okay, I have a quick question. In 2010, our house flooded.
Okay.
And when the city came out, they realized that if they just put a simple berm along the streets, when they came back and repaved the street, they just put a little berm. It's got flattened. Is that something you go back to whom to get redone?
So the city came out and did the berm?
When they redid the street, they just put a simple little berm on it. It prevented the rain from going back down into our driveway, and it just fed it down the street.
Okay.
So it needs to be redone in theory. So could I go through you? Is that something you might be able to help us with?
That would actually be the Public Works Department.
Call Joe Chicat.
Good luck.
But you can have some humor here. But the real reason is that I'm not going to send you somewhere that you're not going to get an answer. So you can take my card, and when I will see who you need to talk to about getting that done. Okay?
Thanks.
No problem.
Does anybody else have stories of the past experiences? Like you mentioned, you have a big storm drain in front of your house, huh?
Well, I think it's been there quite a while. It's certainly been there before me. But they put in storm drains in our neighborhood probably, 10 years after. We came in 71, and there used to be a river coming down Diamond. And that's before all the hill was built out. And
The Delmar slide.
The Delmar
got the
slide,
infamous-
yes.
Got the French draining system down below Delmar on the hillside. Now they build houses up there right below it. And they put in some drains. And those drains come down, they feed all the way under some of the houses on the upper Diamond, or middle Diamond. about 500
Woods
houses.
Canyon.
And they go behind the houses
Yeah.
on Diamond on the north side. And they come out Larry's house, about Center Street, cut
The
across.
meth lanes.
And the pipes up the top of the hill are nice big ones. But down at the bottom,
They
they're
keep
smaller.
getting smaller and smaller.
Because they're old
Which is exactly what we see, especially in the downtown area, as a reference, that you have the canyon that then bottlenecks and then goes underneath and then pops up at Beach Street.
Yes.
So that's the same thing that we're dealing with there.
So have they figured that one out? Or is that GTE building still gonna get whacked?
They still use temporary power on the GTE building just in case.
I don't know about that.
That big
But
generator
I know
that's up there.
I know they do have a plan as far as we have levels marked in that waterway that if they reach a certain level, we know that it's going to overcome on Beach Street. So we're going to already, as we're expecting rain, we have a plan that we've established, a checklist that we have. Took a lot of vetting with all of our departments, but we know basically 5 days out, we can tell when a storm's gonna hit, right? It's pretty confident at 5 days out. And we have things we do up until day one, depending on the severity of the storm. One of those things being that we will put K-rails out there and we're actually gonna close down Broadway at a certain point and have the water flow down Broadway like a river from there to prevent damage down to Ocean and etc. because they have higher businesses on the side. So we're trying to take that as a proactive approach to mitigate any more problems to those businesses on Ocean because they're a little bit low lying. So to answer the question, there's the old systems here.
Yeah.
They're still going to be old and we can't obviously stop anything with the rain coming. We can just try to do our best to prevent and educate and prepare. Yes, ma'am.
We live at the end of Ruby, and I don't know if you are familiar with Ruby Street or not, but it goes up and stops, and then there was a paper street that went all the way up, but that was all taken down because they're doing undergrounding, and so all of the vegetation that had been on that hill is gone. And there used to be stairs that people could walk up and down, and the stairs, the upper levels, the Crestview is all gone. Now, before the last rain, which was what, a week and a half ago or something, they came out and, because all of this obviously was supposed to be finished, but of course it's not. They took black plastic and draped it all the way from the top down to the bottom with sandbags. But when we had 10 years ago, 9 years ago, whatever it was, when we had the big rain, the water came underground into our house. So how do we know, and they couldn't figure out where it came from. So how can we
It
protect
overwhelmed the extensive French drains that we had put in
Oh, yeah.
as a matter of.
When we built
Wow.
the property, built up, but, it just sort of missed those and came in. Is there anything we can do what can we do?
I mean, I wish I could stand up here and give you a great answer. I mean, all I can say at this point is probably try to sandbag whatever those waterways that come down if you know where they
We
are.
don't know because it was underground.
So,
I know what
yeah.
room it ended up in, but
I think what happens is 3 months later, all this water goes into the ground and then hits the bedrock. And there was a lake right there. And once it hits the bedrock, then it flows down the hill. And then 3 months later, I'm talking about, then it comes up behind your house. It came up by our houses on Carmelita. I mean, she had to put a whole underground, what do you call it, pipes underground, and then some pump to pump it out. And that free flowed till August.
wow.
Well, that's what caused the Bluebird slide.
It probably did.
But that was like 6 months later.
Well, for 6 months.
Yeah, that was.
The slide on the tennis court came from Bluebird.
We'd appreciate it if you would run up there some bright sunny day and evaluate what the Public Works group has done to prepare it for an El Nino event. It doesn't appear that it's really quite adequate.
Well, it did fine in
The first storm, usually not a problem.
rained in our dining room.
No, and that's what they say. It's not the first storm, it's the 10th storm of El Nino that's going to hit you when the ground's saturating. But just to stay on topic, I'll do my due diligence with talking to Public Works, going up there, seeing, I mean, I'm not a trained professional, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a civil engineer, I don't know, I'm not a hydrologist, I can't tell where water flows from.
Well, you just leave your name and an evacuation route then.
Yeah.
I'm not signing anything.
The boat.
No.
His name is Joe Chiquette.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll do our due diligence. I'll talk to Public Works. We'll see. I'll pass the message along, and the concern is all I can say. But staying on topic is what you guys can do to prepare for the disaster. Obviously, know your local hazards. You guys have been here a while. You know what hazards Laguna faces. Not only El Nino with flooding, you have the wildland fires, you have earthquakes, tsunamis, etc. goes on. Know your evacuation routes. Laguna Beach is a little bit unique that we have 3 ways in and 3 ways out. Obviously, in a disaster, typically one of those will probably be blocked, like the canyon in a flooding situation. But your neighborhoods, you have a lot of different inlets and ways around. So just understand all your options there in case you do have to evacuate or you are asked to. Everyone here, I'm hoping, has signed up for Alert OC, which is our mass notification system. If you haven't, it's free. Your information doesn't get sold. It's only used during emergencies. We're not going to let you know about a parade in town. Alert OC is emergencies only. If you haven't, go to alertoc.com, you click on Laguna Beach on the map, and you put in your information.
Will they let you put more than one number?
Yes, they will. So we recommend that you put a whole bunch of information in there because in a disaster, the phone lines might be down, but you might get a text message or you might get an email. So put in all your contact numbers so we can contact you that way for your address. Okay, and if you have friends or family or relatives that live outside of Laguna in Orange County, you can sign up to receive alerts for that area as well. If they live in Placentia or Yorba Linda, in case you have someone you're taking care of there and want to know if there's any issues. That's the way that we will communicate with you to give you guys instructions during emergencies. Okay, we have the ability in Alert OC to grab certain areas and neighborhoods, so we have it down in a plan and a strategy to alert certain neighborhoods if we want them to evacuate one way, another one to evacuate another way to try to expedite the flow of traffic. So that is consideration, and we do have that in our plan. So that's a good thing. Continuing on.
So evacuate to where? Where would be?
Bluebird Canyon Farms, that's what we're evaluating.
It's one thing to get people going, but where would we get them going to? Or maybe you have some thoughts on that, maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, it's a realistic thing. It depends on the hazard that we have. It depends on if we're expecting a huge storm that's going to hit where we might go ahead and already establish a shelter location and have it staffed. I know Sue can sit here understanding the American Red Cross side of things, but if a disaster hits right now, it will take the city an hour or so to activate its emergency operations center, get the policy decision makers there. It's also going to be deciding where we're going to put people. So I don't have that answer. We have the ability, I can activate Alert OC on my cell phone right now once I get the direction to do so and the message to send, but understand that it does take a process for that to happen. So we might have you evacuate because we don't want you to drown in the meantime, but we'll let you know when we have established a shelter and that you can go there. But traditionally, and one more thing before you have another question, is Laguna Beach doesn't do shelters. They have other resources that they tend to use. Doesn't mean that us as a city won't have one, but in the history of us having shelters, we have very few people that actually utilize them. It's also used as a place for people to go and get information because then they have a spot they can go, the information is up to date there. We can have a reunification center if there are cities, and that's where we see the need for those shelter locations for Laguna Beach. Yes, sir.
So I'm interested, where physically is the EOC located?
It's at City Hall.
What if the downtown was in a bad way? Is there an alternate EOC?
There is, sir.
Where is that?
Fire Station 2.
Over here on
Correct.
Agate?
Correct.
Cool.
Yep. That's the biggest fire station we have. There's a lot of training facility, that classroom in the back, and we're able to utilize that. The technology is not at the same level. We're working on it to get there, but a realistic EOC is you just need to have those decision makers in the room, and it could be here, it could be there, but we do have a contingency plan for that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Historically, El Ninos, when they come in, is there a typical duration period for it? Is it 2 weeks or a week or a month or is there a pattern for
Yeah,
that?
the wettest months for El Ninos
Uh-huh.
historically are January through March,
Through March, and then it's done.
typically.
Yeah, but January.
That's where you
February,
typically get them.
March.
Yeah.
And January's almost over, so.
Correct.
February, March.
Again, but we're still on track with what those other big El Nino years did with the same amount of rain. So 97, 98, when that gentleman lost his life in the canyon, when there was issues with Laguna Canyon, we up to this date had the same amount of rain, or very comparable, just under 6 inches from October to now. February is where it hits. Okay? So
Are those storm drains or sewers that they're replacing downtown?
I
Sewers?
think it's sewer lines. Yeah, it's water quality. Yeah. Good question. So the next section that I just want to talk about is the emergency kits. I'm sure you guys or hopefully understand or have an emergency kit. Everyone's kit's a little bit different depending on what your needs are. But I just like to go over a few of the key items just to reiterate that you want to make sure that you have water available, a gallon per person per day as the rule of thumb for emergency management. Food supply for at least 72 hours. If you do have canned food that you're going to want to eat, make sure you have a can opener. Don't forget that key component. We ask for everyone to have a battery-powered or hand-crank radio. We use 93.5, and I've done a lot of public service announcements on that radio station. We have the ability, I can call in and he can put me live on it. I've used it the July 3rd fire we had in the canyon. We talk about that. It's one of our main routes that we're going to pass information along is 93.5. So remember that resource. Obviously flashlights. Last night we had a power outage at Top of the World that went out from 6 p.m. until 5 in the morning. My phone blew up about 3 a.m. with a whole bunch of questions. But regardless, make sure that you guys have flashlights, know where they are. If they're flashlights that you aren't going to use on a day-to-day purpose, what we say is put the batteries in backwards, and then when you need them, you put them back in forwards, and it tends to save the life of the battery a little bit longer. So that's a little trick to do. Make sure you have a first aid kit so you can take care of those small wounds. In the event of disaster, it's obviously might be hard to get the first responders out there because we're going to be overwhelmed. So you guys need to be able to take care of yourself. And one of the best things to do is to, if you have those scratches, is to prevent infection, is to cover them up. So that's huge. Cash. Everyone puts a little cash away wherever you have it in your home. Cash is king. ATM machines, credit card machines won't be working, so make sure you have cash and have small bills available. So if you need to go get water, emergency supplies after a large-scale disaster, you're able to do that without a problem. Make sure you know where all your utility shutoff valves are and your pliers or wrenches available and know where those are. Make sure you share this information with your family members that live with you, so if you're not home, your spouse is able to do it as well. Prescription medications, if possible, know where those are. If they're available to have some extra ones to put away, I don't know the length, shelf life of those, but if you can, it's always good to keep that as a consideration. A whistle is important, and then lastly are the important family documents that you have. What I did is I took a thumb drive that's password protected, and it took me a good Saturday, but all those important forms and that I wanted to keep is I scanned them all in and then saved it on my password protected thumb drive that I have in my go bag with all this emergency supplies, so no matter where I go, I can have my insurance information, birth certificates, any of that information that you want on there, that thumb drive, it's in one place. Some people put them in bags, some people print out copies, Some people don't do anything at all, but that's what I would recommend doing. Is if you have it on a thumb drive, if you're savvy with that, put them all on there. It's in one spot. It's small. It's password protected because I know I'm probably going to lose it in my lifespan. So at least I can just do another one and know that someone else isn't going to have my information. So it's a lot of work to do at the beginning, but then just make sure you take the time to update it when you go through. It's kind of like daylight savings time when we tell you to change your clocks, you change your batteries and your smoke detector. You can use that time frame also to update any of your plans that you have.